And holy cow, man, I was like, sweat. I don't sweat, but I was sweating that day. And I was just like stumbling over my words, and it's different, but once you get past that fear part of it, everything starts to get easier. You start to meet people easier. You start to network a little bit more, and you're like, okay, that wasn't that bad. There's a couple of times when I came off stage and I'm like, sweetheart, how'd I do? She's like, we'll talk in the car. I was like, okay, so not good? Okay. But it's a growth, right? So success does begin at the end of your comfort zone, because I got out of my comfort zone. I started to be able to speak on stage. I started to be able to go out and talk to people. I started to be able to talk to our team. And it got easier every time I did it. Every time I got up there, every once in a while, I lost my train of thought. Every once in a while, when I'm talking about stuff like this, I look back to our past and I get a little choked up, because, I think of what we went through to get to where we're at. And it was all worth it. At the time it wasn't, but when I look back on it, I'm like, okay, this was all worth it, because our life is better today than it was. Because getting out of your comfort zone just means, you're going to do something or master something that you're not good at right now. Everybody can't be like Rose. As a matter of fact, I think probably 95% of the people are closer to the shy end, or the not sure if they can do it side of the pool, right? Rose is Rose. You don't have to be like Rose to be successful in this business. Anybody, I don't care who you are, what your background is, what language you speak, where you came from, whether you finished high school, anything. Anybody can be successful with this business if you get out of your own way.
Amen.
Now, you see this little sign here, strangers ahead? That scares the heck out of most people, right? And here's the thing, people burn through their hot market and warm market pretty fast. And we did. I mean, ours was pretty small, because, we lived up in Round Rock, Texas, and we had a small group of friends and people that Rose worked with, but we were out of our warm market really fast. And when it came time to get out into the real world and meet, real people that we didn't know, Rose has always been a master at that, but I struggled, right? I really, really struggled with that, because, like I said, if I'm in Dallas, right? Okay, right, if you didn't like the Dallas Cowboys, or fishing or golfing, man, we didn't have nothing to talk about. I'd like, this is my, I didn't even say hi. I was like, okay. And I started to say hi, I was like, hi. And if I didn't get a hi, I was like, I'm gonna leave, so. But when you get out there and you go, okay, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna talk to a stranger. Well, here's the cool thing about strangers. Okay, see if this plays. Oh man, it's not gonna play. Okay, so here's the cool thing about strangers. Now, just getting out in the world is not good enough. You really have to get out there and talk to people. Now, it would be super cool if you were in like a bunch of people in an audience like this, and If a consultant, somebody who is like looking for something, if they would light up green, that would be cool. Oh, consultant. Yeah, consultant. I could just, get over to that person. Now, when you go out, different people have different opinions. Some people like to go out all decked out in Ambit hat, Ambit shirt, Ambit buttons, Ambit pins.
I can play it.
Okay, Ambit pins like that. But the reality is when you go out looking like a network marketing consultant, most people part. They let you through, and they're like, I don't see that person. What's he doing? I've been approached by Ambit already, and so Rose and I go out like normal people. I put on a pair of slacks, I put on a polo. Most of the time I've got my pins on because they generate questions, but I'm not all ambited up because I'm out there to meet real people. Eventually I'm going to meet my next consultant, right? But I want them. I'm selling myself first. I'm not selling Ambit. You see my point? Yeah. They want to meet you. They don't want to think that they're going to be recruited by you. And if they're the right person, and you guys kick it off, and you have a good conversation, and you connect, okay, that's when you find your next consultant, or your next customer, or your next best friend. Okay, so you're out there to meet people. You're not out there to recruit people. That's the biggest thing about the cold market that a lot of people mistake. They make that, and it's a huge mistake. Because what happens is if you go out and you're obnoxious and you just try to recruit people the wrong way, and you just throw Ambit up all over them, guess you just ruined that person for the next person that comes along, because they're going to go, oh, I just already talked. I talked to a guy about Ambit, and holy moly, okay, that's a cult. I am not going to join that bit. And they said no before they even knew what it was about. Okay, so, be courteous. I mean, you're out there to make friends. You're out there to meet people. So when you're in the cold market, that's what I keep telling myself. I'm like, listen, I'm not out here to recruit. I'm out here to meet people. I'm out there to get phone numbers. And that's what I do. When I go out to work what I call the cold market now, I go out there to connect. All I really want is your phone number. I want some information about you. I want to know about you, and that's the other important thing. When you're out there meeting people, you want to know about them. Because the more information I get about the person that I'm talking to, the more I can tell if what I have will get them what they want. Oh, a best example I can give you is Terry Thetford. Okay, Rose always breaks her phone. God bless her. Okay. But I was in Verizon Wireless. We had just sold our house in Austin, Texas. We sold it in 4 days, and we had like 3 weeks to, find a house down near Houston. And, we've been living there for 14 years, so you could imagine just the chaos that we went through just to get, down to Houston. And, it's impossible to find a house that can house 8 people in 3 weeks, but we did. God was there, right? Rose was going through the, Craigslist, I think it was, and she found a lady that had a house that was big enough for us that only wanted to rent it for 3 months. What are the chances, right? So, we moved into that house in Pearland, and Rose broke her phone, so I went down to Verizon Wireless, and I was standing there in line. And I was thinking, everywhere I go, I'm still nervous every time I go out to this day, just as nervous as I am when I get on stage. When I go out there to meet strangers, I'm nervous. And I'll stand there in line, and, one thing that happens when you get into Ambit Energy is you become a better listener. So you just listen to all the conversations around. It's not really eavesdropping. It's just listening, right? And then you start to kind of look around and just kind of check the people out around you, because you're really looking for a friendly face, someone who maybe you can approach. And I saw Terry. He was over there in the corner, and he had his iPad. And I don't know if you've seen him. He's like 6'2", 250 or 60 pounds, big guy, a little bigger than me. And, I was like, police officer, okay. Yeah, maybe I should talk to him. And, you always have that voice on you. He's like, no, you're not going to go talk to that guy. Absolutely not. And, so I was standing in line. The sales guy was taking forever. And I kept looking over there, and he never once looked up. And I'm like, dude, he's guarding a freaking Verizon Wireless, and he never even looked up. I was like, but he is scary looking, so, okay. So he's using his iPad. I'm like, all right, screw it. I'm going to go over there and I'm going to talk to this guy, and a couple things are going to happen. Either I'm going to get his phone number, and this is one of the first times that I walked up to someone and purposely tried to start a conversation. Okay, I've done it before unsuccessfully, but I was like, listen, I'm going to do this. I'm going to get out of my comfort zone. I'm not going to listen to this little voice back here, and I'm going to do this. And I walked up to him, and we had probably a 10-minute conversation. And I never said Ambit one time. And I'm going to tell you why, and I'm going to tell you, how to learn from every time you talk to someone and they join your business. But I never said Ambit one time. It was about him. First of all, I want to know, why is there a police officer in Verizon Wireless? I'm like, we just moved to Pearland. What? There's a police officer in Verizon. What don't I know? I was looking for bars and stuff. I was like, okay, yeah, no bars, so we're good. So I was like, I wanted to know about him, and see every police officer, firefighter, and military person that I see, I walk up to them and shake their hand and thank them for what they do.
Amen.
Okay? So give them a hand. Because someone has to be out there protecting us and giving us the ability to do this. So it's genuine. I shake their hand. I say, hey, man, thank you very much for what you do. I don't recruit them all, but I thank them all. And for him, I was like, hey, man, why are you in Verizon Wireless? And he kind of told me. I was like, well, great. How long have you been a police officer? So I was getting information about him because I wanted to know, does he like working these extra jobs? One thing I know about police officers, we've had plenty of friends. They do their police job, and then they do whatever else on the side to make ends meet. Right? Most of them have 2 or 3 or 4 extra jobs that they go to after their police job. Okay? Dedicated people, hardworking people. What kind of people are you looking for? Okay? Dedicated and hardworking people. So I got to learn a little bit about him, and right in the middle of our conversation, his wife drives up with lunch. And he's like, oh, I didn't even give him my name. I didn't get his number or anything. So he's like, hey, got to go. He walked out. Now, I could have done one of 2 things, and you guys need to learn from this. I could have said, and then walked away and went home and told Rose, man, I almost got this police officer's number, but his wife drove up. But instead, I walked out, drove around the parking lot for 10 or 15 minutes, came back in and said, hey, man, how's it going? I didn't get a chance to finish our conversation. Okay, here's my business card. Let me get your number because I think I've got something you're going to want to look at. Okay? Now, that was the piece of the conversation that put over 1,000 consultants in our business. Okay? From a stranger, someone who wasn't looking for anything, but I kind of knew he was because he was out there working extra jobs, willing to make extra money and do whatever it takes to make ends meet. You're looking for those kind of people. Okay, so I could have walked away and you know, Rose and I would still be executive consultants. We'd still be here, but we wouldn't have changed a life. Okay, as a matter of fact, we wouldn't have changed thousands of lives. So think about that. When you're out there and you're that little voice in the back of your head says, no, don't go talk to that person. Don't listen to that voice because you're out there to change lives. And if you don't have that conversation, you may miss that chance. And no one else, you know, could walk up to them for the rest of their life. And I say that because, you know, Rose turned this business down 3 times. The 4th time, the lady that walked up to her said just enough to her to get her to go look at this business again. And since that day, not one person has come up to either one of us in all of our travels and said, oh my gosh, I'm part of a business that you have got to look at. Rose, you're so outgoing, you would be so great at this. You know, Kevin, you're so handsome, you would be great at this. Right? You know, not one person has come up to us and told us about Ambit. Now, I don't know if that's because we're quicker on the draw, but, you know, but not one person has approached